And so it came to pass that Sony Pictures Entertainment acquired TriStar Pictures and joined with 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, and Paramount to become the Big Six Film Studios. With their power amassed, every film outside of the purview of the Big Six was deemed independent, smaller, savvier, and even quirky. These films were relegated to limited releases and film festivals, fighting for recognition and wider distribution in a dark and uncaring world.
Because that's how you get ants!
In 2004, Napoleon Dynamite premiered at Sundance Film Festival. Like most independent movies, it had a sense of humor that is very clearly not located within the mainstream. It created enough buzz to amass a cult following to the point where it was voted number 14 on Bravo's 100 Funniest Movies. Writers Jared and Jerusha Hess returned with what I think is Napoleon Dynamite's spiritual successor in 2009 with Gentlemen Broncos. Unfortunately, Gentlemen Broncos was unable to generate the same momentum as Napoleon did. Debuting at Fantastic Fest in September of 2009, the movie was intended for a wider theatrical release on October 30th, but bad reviews got it pulled from the theaters. Let's see if we can pull off anything nice to say about Gentlemen Broncos.
Gentlemen Broncos.
Full disclosure, I was never the biggest fan of Napoleon Dynamite. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, I'm just saying it wasn't my thing, which doesn't really matter in this case because I thought Gentlemen Broncos was hilarious. It's clear that the Hess team had refined their ideas. While Napoleon Dynamite lacks a lot of storytelling structure in favor of oddball characters, Gentlemen Broncos has a strong plot that still delivers all the off-the-wall charm. On top of that, it's a story for writers. The story is about Benjamin Purvis, played by Michael Angarano, who you'll recognize from a ton of stuff. Benjamin is homeschooled by his mother, Judith, an aspiring clothing designer who works at the local department store. It's clear they're struggling with their finances. Benjamin's dream is to become a pulp science fiction writer like his hero, Ronald Chevalier. A group of homeschooled kids get together to go to a weekend writer camp where Chevalier is the headlining speaker. On the ride to the camp, Benjamin meets two other homeschoolers, Tabitha and Lonnie. Tabitha reads some of Ben's work and we get our first cutscene to the interpretation of Ben's book, Yeast Lords, where Sam Rockwell plays the hero, Bronco.
You took my nets.
We only took one.
This is a recurring theme where we see adaptations and interpretations of Ben's work, and this is the major theme throughout. A writer cannot determine how someone interprets their vision. Tabitha makes thematic statements that Ben isn't really sure that's what he meant. Chevalier, played by Jermaine Clement, gives his keynote speech. There aren't any punches pulled here. This is not a loving homage to pulp science fiction fantasy writers, but a scathing satire about them. The scene in which Chevalier teaches a class on naming characters is maybe one of the most quotable in the movie.
For we can turn a humdrum, forgettable name like Nebuchadnezzar into something magical like this. Nebuchadnezzar.
Ben enters Yeast Lords into the Writers' Camp competition in which Chevalier is one of the judges. While in the middle of reading entries, Chevalier finds out that his most recent work has been rejected. He opens up Yeast Lords and is blown away. Back home, with Tabitha's encouragement, Lonnie options Yeast Lords to make a movie out of it. He pays Ben $500 as long as Ben appears in a trailer he's working on. Ben watches in horror as Lonnie makes major changes to the script and walks out on the production. Meanwhile, Chevalier is making edits to Yeast Lords. Sam Rockwell's interpretation of Chevalier's version of Bronco goes off the rails as it's pulped up. The difference between how Ben sees the character and the Chevalier version is over the top and hilarious.
This is ridiculous. That's the most well-guarded yeast factory I've ever seen.
I'm starting to think that Sam Rockwell might be one of the most underrated actors out there. Once Lonnie finishes the movie, Ben is invited to the premiere. He hates what Lonnie has done with it and runs out to throw up. Tabitha follows him out and they leave together, now a couple. While they're out, Ben picks up a copy of The New Chevalier, which is his book in disguise. Judith gets invited to present her clothing designs to the head of the nightgown line at the department store. In actuality, the guy just wants to sexually assault her, to which Ben responds violently. He dresses one of his mother's mannequins up in his clothes as a distraction, dons a nightgown, and shoots the guy with a blow dart. Having found his spine, he then storms to the Chevalier book signing to confront the author about the plagiarism. Chevalier tries to buy him off, but Ben starts hitting him with the very merch that was intended as a bribe. Ben is taken to jail. Judith comes in to bail him out and reveals what was meant to be a birthday gift. She's registered all his stories with the Writers League of America. He has proof that Yeast Lord is his. Chevalier's books are yanked off the shelves to be replaced by Ben. He takes the profits from the book to throw a fashion show with Judith's designs. The credits play over the fashion show. This movie is so funny. There are so many quotable lines. I've been attending sci-fi conventions and writers' conferences, large and small, since 2008, and Gentlemen Broncos does not pull any punches where that's concerned. As a writer, hey, now's a good time. This is my book, Live Like Legends. It's on Amazon. Check it out. As a writer, there were a lot of scenes I could relate to. Jermaine Clement portrays the sort of prideful author who thinks that his way is best, that he has all the answers, that his success makes him untouchable. Join me on this limb we're about to walk on. Pulp science fiction was called that because of the cheap paper it was printed on. While I saw a few references for who Chevalier was based on, they were more for the stylistic choices rather than for the character himself. I don't know if Hess had any particular authors in mind. Regardless, you can always find at least one of these at every convention. It's the guy who's been around forever, hasn't published anything in a long time, and actually wrote the same story over and over again when he was being published. Pulp science fiction hasn't really been popular in a while. It was replaced with more thoughtful writers like Asimov and Philip K. Dick. That's not to say you can't enjoy it. The point is that the industry has changed, and these authors who churn out cheesy sci-fi story after cheesy sci-fi story have faded. Game of Thrones premiered in 2011, and all of a sudden fantasy became mainstream. While I don't think George R.R. Martin fits as inspiration for Chevalier, I do think that people now have more of an understanding as to the kind of cultish following that Chevalier has in Gentlemen Broncos. This movie is hilarious. I laughed out loud throughout the whole thing. It's disappointing that it didn't break into the mainstream the same way Napoleon Dynamite did. There are so many quotable lines from this movie, and they remain faithful to populating their universe with weird characters. Sam Rockwell's changing versions of Bronco are great. Benjamin is perfectly socially awkward, and Judith is clueless but sweet. Jermaine Clement even did in-character appearances at screenings as an attempt to inspire more support for the film. To no avail.
This vest, this was gifted to me anonymously. I believe possibly from an alien life form, because the leather doesn't seem like any skin of any animal I've ever encountered. It's impervious to coffee. Any more cues? Quick fire. Quick, it has to be quick fire. Sorry, not quick fire enough. This one.
What do you do in your spare time?
I don't have much spare time. I usually spend my time that I have spare doing work.
It's possible that the reason I like this movie is because of the way it depicts writers in the creative process. A creator can lose control of their creation, an idea can be mutated into something you never envisioned, and a reader's interpretation may go above and beyond what was intended by the author. But the happy ending is that Ben gets the control back, at least to the extent that it's his book again. Or maybe I just like surveillance does.
Oh my holy crap. Surveillance does. I hate those.
That's all for this episode of Anything Nice to Say. Tune in next time and never be ashamed to like what you like. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for, you guessed it, notifications. If you would like me to check for the silver lining in a movie, be sure to drop your suggestions in the comments below. Become a subscriber on Patreon for exclusives, early access, discounts on merch, and anything else I want to put up there. You can also have your name in the credits and people will know that you're great. My book, Live Like Legends, is out now. You can buy it on Amazon. So, take a look.